Resumed this morning, we will hear the proposed budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways, as well as its attached agencies and offices. For this purpose, we would like to welcome the entire DPWH family, headed by its distinguished Secretary, Secretary Rogelio Singson. Sir, if you have a presentation, you may proceed. Magandang umaga po. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, Senator Cheese. Would like to have a short presentation just to give an overview of our proposed 2015 and where we are previous budgets that have been released to the department. If I may start, Your Honor, as far as the first slide, we also distributed, by the way, Your Honor, hard copies of this one to the members of the Senate. The focus of the DPWH has always been on national roads and bridges and flood management. Now, based on our latest data of road network, which is now 32,227, as compared to the 2010 baseline data of 31,242, we have now 83% of our national roads paved as compared to a national average of only 27%. Now, if we were to look at the starting inventory in 2010, which is only 31,242, and we committed to pave all of it by 2016, we're 88%. We estimate that to complete all of the national roads, we are looking at an additional 3,000 plus kilometers to be paved in the next 2 years. Now, we are still confident, assuming there are no right-of-way problems or the local officials themselves say that there are more important secondary roads. In other words, they would rather spend our budget for secondary roads pavement and improvement than completing something that's not functioning as a national road. So we might have some gaps in terms of completing 100% only because of right-of-way issues or the national road as declared was done through legislation and therefore does not really function as a national road. But having said that, we'll go to the next slide and show you our major key strategic policies and programs. First and foremost, Your Honor, is the good governance reform. We will continue to institutionalize whatever we can going forward. And when we say good governance, we're really talking of making sure that we identify the right projects. And here we try as much as possible to be as objective as possible using a highway development management program, which we update on a yearly basis in terms of road condition nationwide. Right cost means that we require detailed programs of work before we go to bidding so that the biddings are transparent and competitive. We have so far saved about 28 billion by now out of competitive bidding, Your Honor. Right quality means that we are continuing to review our specifications, closely monitoring our contractors' performance, and we have made some very strict conditions on the net financial contracting capacity of our contractors so that they don't get more projects than what they can actually absorb. Right on time is another component of our good governance, and this means we've started to standardize our construction timetable. If they're going to get an award for, let's say, a certain amount, and it is a road category, they should complete that in 90 days. So we have standardized this using our standard S-curves so that most of our projects moving forward need to be completed in 12, maximum 14 months. Right people, Your Honor, we have been implementing competency examinations for promotions and assignments from assistant district engineers and up. We're trying to implement a promotions based on merit and performance. We have also implemented a cadetship program in the department where we hire the best and the brightest civil engineers nationwide. We're now in our second batch. We've graduated our first 40 cadet engineers, and we're now on our second batch, and we hope to still be able to hire about 160 young cadet engineers that we pay much higher than the private sector. Well, not much higher, but higher than the private sector. Going to the next major program, this is better quality and safer national roads and bridges. I will give a more detailed explanation of this. The third is effective flood control program. Here, the President has adopted an integrated water resource management to optimize our water resources. The principle is fairly simple. If we're able to integrate other departments' programs in terms of water resource management, flooding will be reduced downstream. So in other words, if we can retard the amount of water upstream for irrigation, for domestic use, or for hydropower, then flooding downstream is substantially reduced. The Strategic Convergence Program is with the other departments of the national government, and this in particular, for example, tourism, the OTC, and the Department of Agriculture and NIA. We will continue to push for 2 more major PPP programs before 2016, and the one ongoing right now is the bidding of the Laguna Lake Expressway Dike, which is our biggest so far. The last program that we included 2 years ago is the Resiliency Program, but this has been accelerated as a result of the calamities that the country has experienced. In other words, we're changing the structural specifications of public schools, hospitals to be able to absorb stronger calamities. Next program, just like to emphasize the convergence program because this is very important to us. First is the tourism convergence, meaning what the Department of Tourism has identified as its key tourism destinations, we have supported to make sure that they are accessible. So the total estimated cost of the infrastructure to support tourism destinations is 54 billion, and we've gone the 36 billion amount. We're down to a few more billions to complete all of the identified access to tourism destinations. Convergence program for Agri-Network. We were instructed by the President to take care of implementing farm-to-market to make sure that they are connected to an existing provincial or a national road instead of constructing standalone FMRs. In flood management, as I mentioned, we are coordinating with agencies. In particular, we're implementing the flood management master plan for Metro Manila and the surrounding areas. Part of this is also integrated water resources management with NIA and the Department of Agriculture to make sure that we optimize water resources on our 18 major rivers. Integrated transport system, I'd like to emphasize here, Your Honor, the Mindanao Logistics Information or Infrastructure Network Program. Here we, together with NEDA, identified key destinations in the Mindanao area to make sure that airports, RoRo-ports, production centers are more accessible. This, we hope, will substantially reduce logistics and transport costs in Mindanao. In terms of the highway standard highway that we're implementing within Metro Manila and 200-kilometer sphere, the intention of this program, which was adopted in 2010, is to be able to disperse population out of Metro Manila and make the bedroom communities outside of Metro Manila more accessible. So we have identified an ongoing 170 kilometers of high standard highway. We are implementing, as soon as we get final approval, the additional 93 kilometers, which is the Metro Manila Expressway C6 and the Central Luzon East. This will connect and from the SETEX to Region 2, particularly make the expressways more accessible for our grains coming from Region 2. The next slide will just show you some data on the World Economic Forum quality of roads. We have remained at 3.6 in the last survey, and this is, I believe, the result of EDSA. We were hoping that we would have been given the opportunity to improve the quality of EDSA. Unfortunately, because of the traffic situation, we continue to look for new technologies to be able to improve EDSA. But
on EDSA, Sec, are you considering or are there discussions converting it into a toll road and privatizing it similar to NLEX?
Not at the moment, Your Honor, because we feel that once the Skyway system that is being implemented now is completed, EDSA should substantially reduce volume.
Which Skyway system?
This is the NLEX, SLEX, and the ongoing...
the two privatized,
that's correct,
by San Miguel and by Metro Pacific.
That's correct, Your Honor. So this is substantial. This should be able to reduce the volume of traffic on EDSA.
Pero may common po yun, di ba? Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a common
segment.
There's a common segment of how long?
5 kilometers.
5 kilometers bago maghihiwalay uli sila.
That's correct. Yeah.
Sampung portion yung 5 kilometers na yun?
The common segment is from the Buendia Skyway right now, where it ends, and then ends up the PUP, just across the Pasig River. So Santa Mesa area.
PUP across the Pasig
Santa
River.
Mesa area.
That will be doubly wide or just as wide as the Skyway?
3 lanes each direction, that common segment, and then they split. One follows the PNR alignment connecting to the port area.
So that's a total of 6 lanes for the common
correct.
section.
That's correct.
And then yung kanya-kanya na 3 lanes ulit. Ano?
2
2
lanes.
lanes.
2 lanes.
2 lanes on each side.
That's right.
So 4 lanes.
Now, the next slide shows you the fund utilization. We're happy to report that in 2013, we were able to achieve an obligation versus allotment of 91%. We think this will be difficult to attain in 2014 for a simple reason that we have held back utilization of savings and realignments as a result of the Supreme Court decision. The next slide just shows you specific accomplishments by category. On national roads, as I mentioned, if based on the 2010 data, from 77%, we have paved 88%. And the breakdown is as follows: paving of unpaved segments, that's total of 4,106 kilometers. Rehabilitation of paved sections of our national roads, 3,681. Improvement through preventive maintenance, 3,007 kilometers. Widening, as well as additional construction, a total of 12,184 kilometers, meaning a good third of our national roads have either been paved, improved, or maintained to upgrade the condition. In terms of our national bridges, the intention here is to make sure that we no longer have any temporary bridges on our national road. So we have been able to work on a replacement of temporary bridges of 10,858 linear meters, rehabilitation of existing bridges and flyovers of 21, widening and construction of bridges, 12,000 linear meters, so all told 44,441 linear meters have been worked on since July 2010. In terms of our flood management plan, we continue to improve on the Pasig Marikina to improve its carrying capacity. We're now into phase 3 and phase 4 of its implementation. We also worked on several projects along Manila Bay, as well as other interventions totaling to 28 billion so far. Some of the major improvements are shown in the pictures below. The first one is the Blumentritt Interceptor. The intention here is to be able to address the flooding in the UST, Santames, UST and España area. The second major project is additional drainage capacity in Mandaluyong, and this is to make the Mandaluyong-Maysilo area flood-free. The third, as I mentioned, is the Pasig Marikina channel improvement. We're dredging components of Pasig Marikina, as well as widening and recovering the easements of Pasig Marikina. Another major component of what we're doing to address flooding is to raise the flood wall or sea wall along the low-lying communities in Valenzuela, Obando, Maykawayan, Navotas, or the Kamanava and Devom area. In terms of just showing how we continue to increase investments in capital outlay, bearing in mind that the intention of the President Aquino is to raise our investments in infrastructure to a minimum of 5% of GDP by 2016. As you can see, we've been increasing our investments in infrastructure by an average of 30% the last 3 years. But for 2015, we propose a 41% increase in capital outlay. Meaning, since we started in 2011, by 2014, we would have invested 4 times our investment in infrastructure as far as DPWH is concerned.
How many percent are we, Sec, of GDP?
We're now at close to 4.5, and hopefully still hit 5 by 2016.
Meron po ba kayo sa unprogrammed fund? Wala na.
None that I know of, Your Honor. Ours are all already included in our appropriations.
Please proceed, sir.
The next just shows you the category and breakdown of our proposed expenditures for 2015. General administration and support at 5.9 billion, support to operations 20.5, or this is the MOE, operations of 192 billion, and projects at 68.7. So a total proposed budget of 287. And this really all goes practically to capital outlay. This is compared to a total of 206 billion in 2014. Now, broken down into major final output, National Roads Network Services, meaning improvement of our road network and bridges, 38%, or 130 billion. Flood management, we continue to ramp up our investments in flood management. That's why you see a 37% increase from our 2014 budget. And construction and maintenance of other infrastructure. This is where we have our convergence program with other agencies. In terms of further breaking down our MFO1, this is based on our highway development management program and try to be as objective as possible in terms of allocating resources. The first component there is asset preservation of our national roads. The amount is 22.33 billion. Network development, this would be improvements like bypass, conversions, and so on. Road upgrading, this is our priority to pave remaining unpaved national roads, and construction and maintenance of bridges along national roads. The amount allocated for maintenance and construction is 20.6 billion. Your Honor, this is where we can set aside for the insurance of bridges.
Yes.
Flood management, there are basically 2 components. This would be flood management on drainage, and the other one would be flood control mitigation measures along major rivers and principal rivers. So all told, we're proposing 41 billion. The next would be construction and maintenance services or the infrastructure. The major component here would be our convergence program to improve access to airports, seaports, tourism destinations. So 20 billion will go for that category, and the rest are really small amounts for water supply and rainwater collection, and then access to facilities for physically challenged individuals. So that's a total of all told under MFO3, 20 billion. In terms of comparing our 2014 versus our proposed 2015, if you will notice, Your Honor, foreign assisted, that's 1.1.1. There's an increase of 29%. Locally funded projects, a major increase of 43%. So for infrastructure, from 190 billion in 2014, we're proposing 270 billion, or a 78.8 billion increase, or 41%. Non-infrastructure is a minor increase. So total capital outlay increase is from 191 to 270 billion, or close to 79 billion increase, or 41%. We're looking at our current operating expenditures. Our personal services is practically flat in spite of the increase in capital outlay. Our MOE is a 22% increase. So our total proposed budget is increased from 206 billion in 2014 to 287.8 billion, or a 39% increase. The MVUC fund remains practically flat, and then the retirement benefits program is also flat. So a total proposed budget of 300 billion for 2015, or a total 37% increase. The next slide just shows you the graphical breakdown. So highways will get 64% of our budget. Flood control is 16%. And the rest are distributed across different categories. The next slide just shows us the major breakdown from NCR, Northern Luzon, Southern Luzon, Visayas. What is interesting here, Your Honor, is the amount of budget that we're allocating for Mindanao. Mindanao gets 30% of our budget.
Actually, I think other agencies should do it that way, Sec. They should divide Luzon into north and south so that Luzon won't look that big.
Yes. Actually, the people from Visayas are complaining. Meron na palang Northern Luzon and Southern Luzon.
Yeah, it won't look that big. The disparity won't look that big. It won't look like 43%, 17, and 29.
Yes. So that's correct, Your Honor. We purposely broke down Northern and Southern Luzon. Kasi nagre-reklamo in Visayas. But our explanation is that we have not included here the total amount that will go for the Yolanda rehabilitation, which is very substantial. For the infrastructure cluster of OPAR, the budget is for the budget for the Yolanda infrastructure cluster is 34 billion and resettlement is 72 billion. So this is on top of the 37.8 billion of our regular budget in 2015. So in fact, my worry is the absorptive capacity of the particular region, particularly Region 8. The next slide just further gives you a breakdown of the general category. Again, I'd like to emphasize here the amount that will go to Mindanao, 63 billion. They've never seen magnitudes of this scale in any period in Mindanao. And this will principally implement what I mentioned earlier, the Mindanao Logistics Network Plan. which is to connect airports, seaports, ro-ro ports, and food production areas. Finally, moving forward, we'd like to just summarize. We will continue to institutionalize good governance and anti-corruption program. We're monitoring very closely the implementation of more infrastructure investment to go to 5% of GDP in 2016. DPWH will pursue investments in upgrading quality and safety of national roads and bridges. Let me mention just two new programs. This is the long-term road maintenance contracts and a design and build for bridge program. Better access to tourism destinations, airports, seaports, ro-ro ports, and food production. We will continue to implement integrated water resource program in managing floods. I mentioned the Mindanao Logistics, which is a major component, and under the NEDA plan, this is a major Mindanao initiative in the light of the Bangsamoro Framework Agreement. Number 5, the ARMM, this is precisely, we are categorizing as a very important program moving forward under the Bangsamoro Framework. And then, of course, the last is the Resiliency and Disaster Risk Management Program that we continue to implement instead of just reconstructing damaged infrastructure. We are building back better under the Structural Resiliency Program. That ends my presentation.
Second, before we leave that, before I go to the details of the budget, magkano po yung Armed Support Infrastructure Program, which, as you said, is part of the BBL? Because we're trying to put a price tag on the BBL. Maliban po kasi sa amounts na nakalagay dun sa agreement, ang dami pa pong iba eh. So,
yeah, we have the particular amount. Five. Your Honor, ito yung nakalagay sa ARMM is the one in yellow.
which one is that? 517?
Yes, 517 for 2015.
That's part of the BBL commitments.
That's correct, Your Honor. This was presented to the President as part of the 2015. But I understand the President wants to increase this starting 2016 to about 10 billion.
So that's going to be implemented by the BBL already, not by DPWH?
It depends, Your Honor. At this point, we're saying this will be implemented by DPWH because there's
That's in your budget?
That's correct, Your Honor. So it's not in the BBL budget because there's no agency yet.
Now, if the BBL is created sometime next year, ililipat niyo sa budget ng ARMM yan? Ng BBL yan?
Ang agreement, Your Honor, this will continue to be implemented by DPWH. Because we don't think they'll be ready to implement any infrastructure even next year because of the, I guess they'll need to organize, they'll put, but we're working very closely with the Governor Mujib Hataman because they also have a Department of Public Works.
Yeah, they do. Thank you, Sec. If I may go to the details of the budget, Mr. Secretary, just a few interventions and queries. You have a copy of the NEP? Dot, you have a copy of the NEP? Can you give Engineer Escalona, please? MBUC, Special Provision Number 1, I'm on page 2 of Volume 4. Page 2, Volume 4. Special Provision Number 1. In addition to the amounts appropriated herein, 9,917,987 sourced from 80% collections of MVUC. May I ask, Dot, How much is the projected collections for 2015, or is this the amount collected for the previous year?
Dito po, this is based on the NEP already. So the projections collections year-on-year po is about 10.5 to 11 billion a year.
So where does the balance go?
Sa amin po, if we are not able to spend it, let's say 2014, by 2015 po, nasa amin pa rin yan.
So for example, kung mga 10.5 to 11 billion ang projected collections niya sa 2015, but 9.9 lang ina-appropriate natin dito?
Apat na trust funds po kasi yung pinupuntahan yan. Yun hong collections natin, we're talking about the Fund 151 po siguro dito.
No, this includes the air quality that's supposed to go to DOTC.
Yes, but that's what we call Fund 151 DOTCO. That's the Special Vehicle Pollution Control Fund. So, of the collections, 5% of the 7.5% of the fund go to this Fund 151 DOTCO.
And that's the balance? Yung iba pa, saan?
As I've said, apat po yung trust funds na pinupuntahan. First is the Fund 151, which is what we call the Special Road Support Fund. 80% of the collections go to this fund.
Ito yan.
Yes, sir. And then we have Fund 152. This is the Local Road Support Fund. 5% of the collections go to this fund. And then we have...
Sa inyo rin yan?
DILG po nagpo-proseso yan. These are for local roads, provincial and city roads.
It's in the DILG budget, or it's part of the 9 billion?
It's part po of the 9 billion. And then we have Fund 153, the Special Road Safety Fund. 7.5% of the collections go to this fund.
Kayo din nag-administer yan?
Yes, sir. Fund 151 and Fund 153, kami pong nag-administer niyan.
So, yung sa LGU at yung sa air pollution ang hindi?
Yes, sir. With the Special Vehicle Pollution Control Fund, it's the DOTC who administers that.
But you have to approve it also.
Yes, sir. The board approves it. Well, we have what we call an operating manual such that yun po mga proyekto na kanilang pinopropose should fall within the categories po, within the operating manual.
No, DOTC hasn't availed of this fund. Every year it's in their budget, but every year they don't touch it. Why is that? Please, Secretary.
They had in the past tried to utilize it for building of LTO offices, but we said hindi po acceptable yan. So we are proposing that they use it for conversions of jeepneys to electric jeepneys or tricycles, or conversion of buses to LNG. That's where we are right now. They have been evaluating their proposals. You're very correct. If I'm not mistaken, they have more than 4 billion balance in the MVUC fund.
Hindi nila nagagalaw.
That's correct. But, well, for them to spend that, they will have to go back to DBM because we've been given a cap for MVUC expenditures. So we can only provide what they submit to us for the year, or what the OTC submits to us for the year. But there's a substantial balance available.
Or we can amend the law and widen the utilization of this fund?
That's correct. In other words, you can reallocate because right now there's a fixed allocation by fund category.
Reallocate or widen the possible uses. Pero one line lang naman to sa batas eh. Nakita ko to eh. Ni walang specification kung anong air pollution control.
Pollution. In fact, greening of Metro Manila
is included.
And that's why we have been funding some of the greening components of MMDA out of this fund with agreement from the OTC.
Thank you, Secretary. I'm on page 3. Special Road Safety Fund. Ito po yung 7.5%.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Special Local Road Fund, ito yung sa local government DILG na 5% din, equivalent to 1.2 billion.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Tulay para sa kaunlarang pang-agraryo. What is this, Mr. Secretary? Ito 2.1 billion?
What we part of the foreign assisted program that we continue to implement. This is under the Department of Agrarian Reform, and this is intended to provide access to ARCs, or the Agrarian Reform Communities. So it is DAR that identifies and we implement.
Kamusta po ito? Are you updated in the implementation? Is there a delay?
There is a delay, Your Honor, because this is part of what was covered under a Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing by Senator Serge Osmeña. But we have addressed some of the concerns, in particular, where the issue was whether this was really ODA or not. So we have made sure that this is an ODA program. We're actually ready to implement. First of all the materials have already been delivered by the supplier. So they're here. We're hoping to use them rather than continue paying the loan and not use them. So the materials are in the country. They're in our depot. The sites have been identified. We're ready to implement. We're just waiting for some approvals and clearances from the DFA.
So the 2 billion is for amortization or for the rollout?
For the rollout and actual civil works component. Kasi ito po puros materials.
So yung amortization ito nasa debt service natin?
Apa.
Tourism Road Infrastructure Program, 16 billion. What's the status for this year? I heard there were some delays too, emanating from the DOT itself. Actually, most of the delays emanate from the agencies you're supposed to be coordinating with, like DA, DAR, and Tourism, for that matter. Now, I raised that issue because how can we solve that problem? I know they have to certify or approve the list, or the list has to come from them. But the DA, for example, submitted their list July or August. So how do we go around that?
That's our problem, Your Honor. They give us the list of projects to be implemented by DPWH very late in the year. So we're not able to implement them as quickly as we want. And that's why in the 2015 program, we're insisting that the list of locations be given to us not later than December. Otherwise, talagang we will slide in the implementation.
Actually, what I intend to do for this, even for tourism, may listahan na po ng tourism, wala pa, no?
Identified na yan for 2015.
Itong 16.2 billion?
That's correct. Because among the convergence programs, we're quite comfortable with DOT. Unfortunately, in some instances, nadidelay because either hindi na pag-aralan ng husto yung right-of-way or there are complaints coming from local communities, mayors, governors objecting to the...
So, dito sa tourism natin, wala nang delay for 2015?
We hope, Your Honor, unless there are realignments. Doon ho kami nadidelay. Pagka nag-oppose... Because our requirement is an RDC endorsement for tourism and no right-of-way acquisition. So, ang problema, kung may endorsement ng RDC but some sectors oppose.
Why RDC endorsement?
It's a requirement of the national road. I mean, national projects need RDC endorsement.
One, very few people really attend the RDC. It's only the chairman who happens to be the governor's chairman who attends it. And the mayors really don't attend it.
Well, I understand the concern, Your Honor, but unfortunately, that's what is being followed right now.
Unfortunate. Two, pag duman sa RDC, inaangkin na nung governor na may head ng RDC. Yun.
Yung project.
Anyway, so DA na lang.
DA...
I require DA to make a submission before the end of November.
As well as DepEd.
Ay, wala pa ho talaga yung DepEd. DepEd, I talked to them too. I told them to at least try to reach 70% na may listing sila. And the remaining balance, I'll give them that flexibility. But it can't be the whole amount. It cannot be the whole amount.
I understand.
public-private partnership of 10 billion. I'm on item number 6. What is this for, Mr. Secretary?
These are not all, well, first of all, right-of-way. Since the PPP projects are really government projects after the concession period, the right-of-way cost is borne by the government. The second would be there are some projects, well, so far the proponents have rejected the government subsidy. So in some instances, we have provided government subsidy in terms of additional, for example, we're looking at the T-Plex. When the T-Plex was approved, the approval was for a 2-lane highway all the way to Urdaneta. But we felt that it was going to be a very hazardous situation because you have 8-meter embankments in some portions, and the experience in the Batangas expressway where you only had 2 lanes and the heavy traffic, you had several accidents, fatal accidents at that. So we decided to increase the carriageway from 2 lanes to 4 lanes.
So may right-of-way incidents.
That's correct, as well as additional subsidy.
Sorry, saying ko. Tarlac, Pangasinan, La Union, ongoing?
That's correct.
How much for right-of-way will go to this project?
Your Honor, we can provide information, details of all the 2 billion. This is actually there are specific amounts for each project, Your Honor.
Daang Hari, South Luzon Expressway link, ongoing?
That's correct. Ongoing for opening first quarter next year.
North Dike?
North Luzon.
What's the status? North Dike. Sorry, North Luzon Expressway. South.
Yeah, also for right-of-way, Your Honor. This is in the Caloocan area.
Is this ongoing, sir?
The segment 9 and 10, which is really also part of this, is ongoing.
So bid it out at may contractor at may PPP partner right?
Ito po yung MPIC that has been moving from DOJ, DOTC, and DPWH and NEDA.
That's what I was about to ask. What's the status of that? Because sayang in space.
Opo, originally this was an unsolicited proposal. But there were some views that why are we allowing one side from North Luzon Expressway unsolicited and the South Luzon Expressway extension is just an extension. It did not require bidding. It did not require an unsolicited proposal. So there were attempts to see whether it could in fact be an extension of the North Luzon Expressway. Unfortunately, the DOJ opinion was it could not be in the same category because there was already an unsolicited proposal and there was no prior approval. What was approved only was the extension of segment 9 and 10. So we're back to unsolicited proposal for the remaining some 8 kilometers because the 5 common segment is already being undertaken.
Is there an unsolicited bid?
We are going through the process of getting the final approval and go for a Swiss challenge.
So may nag-unsolicited na?
Meron unsolicited, and this is from the MPIC group. They are the original proponent for unsolicited proposal.
So for Swiss challenge then?
That's correct.
How long will it take, sir?
Minimum of 90 days. So we are hoping that we will have the final NEDA approval in the coming board, which is this month. And so we will go through a Swiss challenge process. So first quarter, we should be
Gano'ng katagal ba Swiss challenge? 3 months?
Minimum,
90 days minimum, di ba?
minimum 90 days. And this is a very short leg, so we hope we can have the final award. But as I said, Your Honor, the common segment is already ongoing. The segment 9 and 10 is ongoing. We continue to acquire right-of-way on the segment 10, which is the Caloocan portion. So what remains is 8 kilometers, and there is no right-of-way issue here because it's in top of PNR. So we expect this to be completed by 2017.
Number 4, the CALAX. What's the status, sir?
CALAX, we completed the
Is it
bidding.
still with the OP?
It's still with OP for because there was an appeal made by the San Miguel
SMC Group.
SMC Group.
So how do you foresee this
Well, we have made
being
our
resolved?
we have made our position very clear. There was non-compliance.
The second highest bidder is the Ayala Aboitiz Group, right?
That's correct, Your Honor. And the point here is that some quarters feel that the government might miss out the difference between what was offered,
11 billion.
10,
11
billion. But our point here is that will be recovered by toll fees. So it's really to the benefit of the consumers if the amount that's paid is not too high.
Actually, that's one basic question we've always had with this type of PPP. DOTC gave us a different answer. According to DOTC, part of the terms of reference limits or puts a cap on what they can charge. I seriously doubt that. And we keep on asking them, why are we bidding out the right to construct it and giving it to the highest bidder? Shouldn't it be to the lowest bidder, as is the case? Because at the end of the day, they will pass it on to the user.
That's correct.
So why are we doing it that way? Why is it?
Your Honor, we have unfortunately there's an interagency committee that decides this PPP. We have been very strongly suggesting that we put a cap in terms of what the government can get. In other words, yung advance fee as a concession fee, because we wanted to make the consumers benefit from the project by a lowering of
I
the
know,
tariff.
that's not the case. I think the policy has been give it to the highest bidder, no design, no design, simply pass or fail, meaning parang yung dinemanda ni Senator Osmeña sa Cebu, yung Cebu Airport. Mukha daw bahay ng manok, pero yun yung bid niya eh. When it was evaluated by the Bids and Awards Committee, pass or fail lang. So it passed, meaning lahat ng basic requirements. Mukha nga lang kulungan ng manok. And then they offered the biggest amount of money by way of concession fees. I don't get that.
I fully agree with you. We wanted to pass on. In fact, our position here is we're happy enough that an infrastructure is built by the
Precisely.
private sector. This should not be a revenue measure.
Precisely.
And that's why we have been very strong. Unfortunately, we're overruled by the Department of Finance. That's the bottom line.
I will see them tomorrow, actually.
They have been using our infrastructure as a revenue measure.
Pinapapunta ko yung GSIC dito, pero nandyan sila sa kapitbahay namin. Pinagmimitingan daw yung pinag-usapan natin kanina. So, Pamana, this will be implemented by you or by the local government units?
By us, unless the LGU will have a capacity to implement the project through an MOU. But we're shying away from MOU, Your Honor, because actually, when we say MOU, you are engaging the local government as the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they do not do it themselves. They also contract out.
Unless it's by administration, okay lang yan.
Pero wala
And they
naman,
have capacity.
Wala naman yan, mga yan eh. So, unless, as I said, we evaluate if they have equipment, if it's a road, or if they have done a similar project by administration. But otherwise, we shy away because we end up having difficulty in liquidations.
Now, number 14, I'm on page 5. Prior years right-of-way expenses. Is this the total prior years or hulog lang to sa malaking utang natin sa prior years?
This is just a part of total claims, Your Honor.
How much is the total
Easily
claims?
over 5 billion.
So these are the validated ones only or sobra pa rito yung validated kaya lang ito lang yung ma-allocate natin this year?
Only validated, Your Honor. We're having, frankly, we're having difficulties in claims in Mindanao.
This has a list, I presume.
That's correct. Claimants, titles, how much, zonal value, and so on.
Thank you. Iya, we discussed that before. Number 18, road construction. Trees, can we clarify this, that it should be outside the
Correct.
right of way? What's the computation again from the center line, Secretary?
20 meters normal.
From the center line,
From the center line.
right?
20,
You count it from the center line, right?
15.
15 both sides from the center line.
Yes.
So the total right of way for a road is 30 meters.
In some instances, 20 would be happy. For example, in the Cordillera areas, urban areas, imposible na ho kami mga 20 doon.
Can we clarify this, na nasa, yung pagtanim ng puno, nasa labas nun? But I don't know which one will follow, 20 or 30. Because we wouldn't want to be faced with the same problem you're facing right now of being criticized for cutting trees.
Our position is national roads should be minimum 4 lanes.
So we should plan for that.
That's correct. So we should not plant any or no obstruction, whether trees, poles, electric utilities, within the carriageway of minimum of 20.
I love trees, Sec. I run in UP almost every day simply because of the trees. But my problem is if you plant it near the highway, that's actually the cause of an obstruction whenever a typhoon hits that place.
That's correct. That's correct. And
Actually,
that's,
kung tanggalin mo yung pole, tanggalin mo yung puno, doon, wala kang obstruction eh.
That's
Immediately passable lahat ng kali eh.
that's right. That's right, Your Honor.
So help us clarify this. Ase Cabral, nasa labas nun,
Outside carriage.
labor-intensive mode. Can you explain this, Mr. Secretary? I understand completely that it's for inclusive growth, provide more labor, but how will you operationalize it? Meaning, in approved contracts, how will you operationalize it? I mean, pag nagbid ang contractor na may equipment, I presume he factored that in already.
Your Honor, we're not referring here to major infrastructure. We're referring here to road maintenance. In fact, we are trying to work with the DSWD for road maintenance to be undertaken by community-based.
Yung cash for work nila.
That's correct. In fact, we're trying to move them from CCT and move them to road maintenance work.
Can we clarify that here?
Yes,
Ase
sir.
Cabral? Wordings to clarify that? Because this seems to encompass everything. Implementation of flood control projects. We heard the budget of the MMDA yesterday. You construct it according to them. It's turned over to them after.
Once completed.
But the maintenance funds for it, hindi daw sila dinadagdagan.
Hindi sila humihingi.
Humingi po, binawasan ng DBM.
Actually, Your Honor, just to clarify, we helped them secure additional budget for the upgrading of all of the pumps in Metro Manila.
Mhm.
The release was made to us and we transferred it to them.
Now, on the quick response fund, so instead of here, yung insurance na pinag-uusapan natin, Secretary, doon na lang sa bridge
Sa
maintenance.
Bridge maintenance component.
Now, just a few points. I'm on page 9. General Management and Supervision, MOE, equally shared, 1.1 million. Check. So this is not demand-driven, it's supply-driven. It's what you give them. It's not necessarily what they need.
That's correct. just to equally distribute the MOE.
What is this for, principally? What's this 1.1 million for? Just out of curiosity. Kuryente, MOE ito eh.
Pang overhead. Outside of the EAO, this is not project driven. This is what they need to maintain. In fact, there are provisions in EAO that will allow them to augment.
There are provisions in EO that
They will allow them to augment. For example, they need additional casuals or army job orders, so they can augment.
Now-
Malamang kulang po ito.
Now, Sec, I have a question. It's common everywhere. I'm on page 17. Di ba may nakalagay po sa taas, Central Office, NCR, Region 1. Diba? Region 1, Cordillera, Region 2, Region 3, 4A, 4B, 5, right? Bakit ho palaging may NCR Central Office under each region? I don't understand that. Di ba? Maintenance, repair, and rehabilitation of infrastructure facilities and related activities, routine maintenance of national roads and bridges. Region 1, 407 million. May nakalagay din no, NCR, 407. May nakalagay Central Office for each region. Why is that?
The explanation, Your Honor, is that the release will be to the central office, NCR location.
But it's for that region.
Yes, yes, Your Honor. Yeah,
Huh?
but it's for the region.
Hindi, may nakalagay sa region eh.
Oo.
Lahat to, puro ganito ah. Please, Central Office, hindi NCR.
It
Located in NCR.
allocated.
Located ang central office sa NCR.
Kayo naman, oo, pero yung address ng Central Office, NCR, pero
Mali.
It's how DBM crafted the presentation, Your
but
Honor.
that makes it confusing.
I agree. Well,
Alam kong nasa NCR yung Central Office, pero di ba pag sinabi mong NCR, you're like talking Region 1. Region nga eh. Secretariat is kindly directed to communicate with the DBM.
yes.
Kasi lahat ho ganun eh. Alam niyo ba na ang budget ng COMELEC kaya walang recall para sa Region 4B dahil ayaw daw i-print ng computer nila yung pangalang 4B? I'm not kidding. Kaya hindi makapag-recall si Mayor Hagedorn. Kasi hindi na ayaw lumabas sa computer nila yung 4B for COMELEC, for the COMELEC budget. Ito baka hindi nila matanggal din to. I'm on page 26, Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Feasibility study, project development, preliminary and detailed engineering. Common of 60 million to all.
Yes, Your Honor.
What is this for, ma'am?
For them to undertake the detailed engineering preliminary of the infrastructure projects for 2015.
Your Honor, kasi in the past, what has been happening is that the projects for 2015, dun pa lang nila nakukuha yung FS or Detailed Engineering Fund. What we wanted to do was give them an advance amount.
Is this the first time you're doing it?
Maliliit kasi noon, parati silang kinukulang. I understand 10 million noon, but because of the huge amount in the regions,
So they will spend this for 2016 projects?
yes,
Tama?
because we already released to them what they need for 2015.
So this is basically for 2016.
2016.
Why is it in CO?
It's a project-related cost, Your Honor. So it's directly attributed
So
to the project.
ika-capitalize yun?
Yes.
It's not MOE?
No, Your Honor. It's part of the project cost, detailed engineering. So it's capitalized.
Isn't it easier if you made it MOE? I mean, I'm only thinking of you. Kasi pag kinapitalize nyo, yung libro nyo lalabas, individually, you have to account for it and attach it to a specific project. And when you present the costing for that project, aside from the funds you allocate for that project, COA-wise, accounting-wise, you will still attribute this for that. Unlike if it's MOE, the office can simply do it as part of its function.
Pero mas tama yata yung related to a particular
Okay ako dun.
project.
Hindi, okay ako dun, Sec.
Yeah.
Okay ako dun, Sec.
So that
Implementation-wise
you
na.
really see a full cost of the project.
As long as it's CO.
Yes,
Your
Honor,
call.
we're comfortable with it.
Now, the next one, I'm on page 27, sir. The survey, region-wide, nationwide roads, road condition, and inventory surveys. Special survey and technology enhancement. Bakit din po siya CO? Are you sure you want to do it as CAP? Kasi part din to?
Yes.
The survey is different from that feasibility study. Ito yung actual survey na nung kalye on the ground.
For actual road condition, Your Honor.
No, but is this for actual road condition or associated with a particular project? Bakit capital outlay po siya, Sec? Please.
Your Honor,
Ask the
we've
Governor.
presented it as capital since we started allocating for that prior years.
Again, look into it. You might want to... Kasi basically, traveling expenses to eh. Di ba? If you do the survey, it's basically, if you're not attaching it to a particular project, it might again be easier for you if you simply put it under MOE. Just consider it, Secretary. I'm not... Again, whatever will make it easier for you, really. In fact, you've been implementing projects very fast. You're the most efficient with the highest absorptive capacity among the agencies, and you have to be commended for it. I'm simply trying to find ways to improve that efficiency even more. So the insurance, flood control you discussed in your presentation. Port congestion. What's the DPWH doing in relation to the port congestion problem? What's in the pipeline, and what else needs to be done?
We have been directly involved in addressing the port congestion. I'm part of the interagency technical group organized by the President. It's myself, Secretary Abaya, Secretary Almendras. So anyway, we have been identifying national roads for providing direct access to the ports. Unfortunately, because of the several months of truck ban, naipunan po yung port. No? So several measures have been adopted. First, identify roads that are good 24/7, one going to Cavite, to the south, one going to the north. 24/7 because these are national roads. Aside from that, through the initiatives of the working group, Subic and Subic and Batangas have been declared as extensions of the Port of
Yes.
Manila. So it's now up to the shipping companies. If they want faster the offloading, go to
They can do that.
Subic or go to Batangas. If you want to wait 9 days, go to...
But if you were going to be asked, Secretary, for 2015, how much will we spend to solve or ease this problem? I mean, if you were to put a monetary, there's a saying, you have to put your money where your mouth is. So, if I were to be asked, if you were to be asked, for 2015, how much are we spending, or what are our related expenditures that will help ease the congestion of the ports?
Many of these will actually be spent by the private sector.
PPP?
Existing existing operators. For example,
Included na rito yung Calax, di ba?
that's correct. At saka yung connector road.
Yeah.
Yung the third leg of the Skyway network that's coming from the north. So anything from the north can now go directly to the port using the elevated Skyway. That was precisely the design. Unfortunately, it got bogged down by legal considerations. But that was really the intention, using the right-of-way of PNR direct. Kasi ngayon, ang choke point talaga ho, nandun sa Caloocan, yung C3.
So habang wala pa ho yun, do we have any, I mean, even if it starts today,
We're asking the help of NHA and DILG to help clear the road right-of-way. The informal settlers have been moving from one side to the other side of R10. Tapos na ho kaming nakapag-pave, lumipat sila sa gitna. Nung kukunin na namin to, pinapaalis namin sila sa gitna, lumipat naman sila dun sa na-pave namin. So, it's a cat-and-mouse situation. So, we said, unless you provide budget for disturbance, again, because those that were inventoried and census, they've been relocated. Ito, mga bago na naman ho ito. No? So we have to just bite the bullet and provide housing. No? Now, the second is right-of-way acquisition dun sa Caloocan. We're down to the last 800 meters that will open that portion of C3 two directions. Kasi ngayon, nagwa-one lane pa ho dun eh.
you have the money
north.
for it na? For the right-of-way there?
We have the funds. It's a matter of going to the expropriation proceedings.
Sino may-ari?
Several mga structure owners. Your Honor.
Way bridges, functioning, status?
Functioning, but the truckers, because of their claim lack of trucks, we have deferred the implementation of the gross vehicle weight. We just continue to implement the axle load limit.
The axle load limit, pero actually madaling hulihin yung nag-overload eh. Pag naka-reinforce yung mga axle nila, it's so easy to, you don't even have to weigh it. Actually, we don't even need weigh bridges.
Well, in fact,
If their axles are reinforced, clearly overloaded yun. I mean, sure, nag-overload yung truck na yun. Actually, if LTFRB will only enforce it, pagbawal nila yung modifications,
yes.
we won't even need our bridges. Just mere inspection, tingin lang na mata. Alam mo na
Yun ho yung ipinaglalaban namin sa, because there are 36 truck operating in Metro Manila.
companies.
Trucks, Your Honor, different franchise holders, but the total number of trucks. For the port operations, we just need 12,000. So that's what LTFRB is now focusing on, to license all the 12,000. Because,
But they opened it up to 38.
well, they gave them provisional licenses. So they're being given until October 17 to convert these provisional licenses to franchises.
That's not the point. We already had enough trucks. Even before that, they simply use it as an excuse to open it up.
That's
Early bidding. How did you institutionalize it, Secretary? And why is DOTC and other agencies unable to do it?
we're able to do pre-construction activities even as soon as we get the project list. For example, this early, all of these projects listed in the NEP is already downloaded to our district offices, so that they know exactly what they can prepare for, assuming there are no realignments or changes. But at least this early, yung engineering group nakakapag-umpisa na kasi tapos na nila yung trabaho nila for the 2014, no? So ginagawa na ho nila yung program of work, detailed engineering, and as far as bidding, short of award.
I know that.
Ito yung
Short of
hindi ho naiintindihan ng iba, that they can actually do a lot of pre-construction activities.
Publication, actually, yung pinakamatagal eh. Actually, you can even provide for some time for litigation.
That's correct. So,
Short of award, that's why first part of the year, you can award already. That's what we're providing for, Secretary, actually, with the use of savings. We're trying to find a way to be compliant with the DAP decision, because the Supreme Court said there, the appropriation is good for 1 year. But they failed to recognize the situation that's going on right now with the DPWH, wherein actual savings are known at the beginning of the year,
Yes.
as between the contract price and the lowest bid price.
There's already savings there.
There's already savings there. Why wait for the end of the year before you can use that? Mas mataas na naman yung presyo. We're trying to provide a way that can be clarified that yon, savings talaga yon, at yon pwedeng gamitin agad, even within the first quarter of the year.
In fact, it will be cheaper for government if we do that, because we can just add to the existing contractor that won the bid for additional scope. Pahabaan mo lang ng additional 1 kilometer yan using his bid price, using the savings from the ABC. So
unless completed project na talaga yun with that. I mean,
kung hintayin niyo ho ng December, magbibid kami uli, meron uling mobilization and demobilization
but what if
costs.
it's a completed project already? Meaning, yung bid, let's say, 1 kilometer, yung bid price niya is for exactly 1 kilometer at yun lang yung unpaved. Pero may savings pa rin.
That's correct. Then you can use it for other projects.
But if not, pwedeng same na?
The same. Allowed
What do you
po
call
yun.
that?
Variation order. You save a lot on government
But can
time.
variation order be done after the award using savings?
Yes. Up to a certain amount, up to 10%.
Where is the cap placed? Saan nakalagay? Saan batas po nakalagay yung cap na yan na 10%?
Under the procurement, implementing rules.
Of the procurement law?
Yes.
So kung 10%, ano usually ang bid price in relation to contract price? Is it more than 10%?
Less. Between 5 to 12%.
So may chance na
Variation order, magagamit.
80% pasok na yun?
Yes.
Are
Magagamit.
you authorized now to do that?
Unless savings is defined.
We will be defining savings.
Yeah.
We will be defining savings in the proposed GAA for 2015.
If we're allowed, Your Honor, it is good for government. It will save bidding period, mare-reduce yung cost, because here we will just use the unit cost of a particular. Kung halimbawa, pavement na lang yan, gagamitin namin yung bid price niya dun sa pavement. Aalisin na namin yung mga overhead, yung mga mobilization,
Hindi lang, Secretary. The
demobilization.
authorization, I think it will be compliant and even more compliant, in fact, with the Supreme Court decision, because you got authorization from Congress to construct a particular project. The savings from that project will be used for the very same project that Congress authorized you to construct or do. So, I don't see any problems with respect to being compliant with the DAP decision.
Well, we were just very cautious about use of savings in general.
Kindly give us the wordings for that.
Yeah.
ASEC, in the special provisions or in the general provisions, siguro special provisions na lang. Because I'd rather do that for you than for any other agency who cannot seem to put rhyme and reason on how they will implement their projects. Actually, I'm going there already, on savings. Ano nang desisyon ng gobyerno sa savings?
We're waiting for DBM to give us clear.
DBM is waiting for the resolution of its MR, but I doubt if the Supreme Court will reverse itself. They're waiting in vain.
Well, that's why I said earlier that it would be difficult to replicate what the absorptive capacity that we showed in 2013, because we were able to still use savings until the Supreme Court ruling. So lahat yung na-save namin out of bidding, we're able to recycle and use for additional projects. Kaya mataas ho yun. Ngayon, we're really having difficulty.
Now, on the calamity fund, you're authorized to use it for calamities that occurred current and up to the last quarter
That's
of the
correct.
previous year.
Yes.
Now, we intend to institutionalize the Reconstruction and Rehabilitation Fund. We're putting up, we put that up in 2014, 20 billion. That's for Yolanda in the previous typhoons. For 2015, it's going to be 1 billion as proposed by DBM in the NEP. Now, we intend to institutionalize that. Bahay yun, Secretary, for reconstruction and rehabilitation para paglampas nung quarter na yon, let's say, Glenda, hindi siya pwedeng gastusan ng calamity fund nyo for next year, pero pwede siyang gastusan ng reconstruction and rehabilitation fund next year. So covered yung first 3 quarters is the construction and rehab fund of the previous year. The last quarter will be covered by the calamity fund for next year. And the calamity fund, of course, also of this year, of the current year. Para covered natin both areas at hindi magagalaw yung calamity fund nyo for previous year's calamities that are still to be paid. Kasi usually, kulang naman po yung nire-release natin for the calamity, di ba?
Yes.
Ito yung bahay para doon, para pwedeng i-replenish, punuan uli, and then be able to utilize it as time goes by na lumalampas yung quarter.
That would be very useful and would help. In particular, Your Honor, this would be helpful to the LGUs.
Definitely to the LGUs, and also so as not to burden your own calamity funds na palaging pag-uunahan at pag-aagawan. Pag natapos na, tapos na. May cut-off period, kumbaga. Hindi na nila pwedeng habulin yung calamity fund nyo for that purpose. One more thing, just for the record, Secretary. We discussed before the hearing started covering by way of insurance some assets of the DPWH so that, again, your calamity fund can be relieved of the cost of reconstructing or replacing certain assets, particularly bridges of the Department of Public Works and Highways. For the record, can you state saan nyo balak i-charge yung premium assuming GSIS will give an acceptable proposal for the insurance coverage of some of our bridges? Where will we put it again?
This will be charged against the budget for repairs and maintenance of bridges rather than in the...
repairs and maintenance of bridges, so we will need a special provision on that, authorizing you to utilize that fund in order to obtain insurance coverage by way of premium payments.
In particular, Your Honor, we have a component under the MFO1, construction and maintenance of bridges along national roads, because my understanding is we're just giving a priority to Highway 1 that we have designated. N1, which will connect, and Metro Manila, of course, that will connect Lawag all the way to Zamboanga City. The budget provision in 2015 is 20.69 billion.
So it's a simple question of authorizing you, as I said, to use that money for premium payments.
That's correct, Your Honor.
What about other structures that you might want to cover by way of insurance in the course of the year, assuming you prove that it's beneficial? I'm talking about vertical structures as well as horizontal, other than bridges, especially in the Eastern Seaboard.
Yes.
Would you want us to put a similar authorization, but this time under your calamity fund, that the calamity fund can be used to pay for it? Because my worry, Secretary, is baka may participation eh. Di ba usually sa insurance may participation? Parang sa kotse, pag nabangga ba? Imbis na yun sa bridge pa rin yung pang participation, calamity fund na lang yung source natin for the participation? Because you won't know eh. The premiums can be sourced from the bridges, but the participation can and should be sourced, I guess, from the calamity fund, because you don't know which one will be hit.
We will study it, Your Honor, and we will identify the structures on the Eastern Seaboard,
particularly on the Eastern Seaboard,
more vulnerable to damage.
And then we'll give it to GSIS. Also for the record, wala akong pinipedel na insurance company. GSIS yan, and they're mandated by law to cover government structures anyway, government assets.
Apo.
Conditioned upon them giving an acceptable proposal to you that you're willing to accept. That's the only time we'll do it. But I guess it's in the interest of both government and the GSIS to arrive at a compromise.
Very much appreciated, Your Honor.
And also for the record and for your information, we will do this for school buildings and for hospitals as well, especially in the Eastern Seaboard.
That's right.
In fact, if we peg it at 1.5 million each school building, on average, we can cover all of the school buildings nationwide, more or less 430,000 school buildings at 2.8 billion. Pero all na yun. Meaning all school buildings na yun. But we don't need to do that really for all.
Yeah.
But even on the assumption that we'll do it for all, that's the rough cost it will take. Only 2.8 billion. Any other points you want to raise, Mr. Secretary?
No more, Your Honor.
Wag na para mauwi na tayo.
We appreciate the suggestions, Your Honor. We appreciate the openness that you have shown. We will consider and we will put all the suggestions that you have made, Your Honor.
Kindly do so, sir. And since no other member registered to make any interventions or to interpolate on the budget of the DPWH as well as its attached agencies, the chair hereby orders that the proposed budget for 2015 of the DPWH, including its agencies, is hereby approved in committee and favorably recommended for plenary debate and final approval. Thank you very much, Secretary. Magandang umaga po at
Thank you
maraming
very
salamat.
much.
Hearing is suspended.